Hello and welcome back to another video. Finally! I am way too late with this video, but here we go. I came up with a character you will see me paint in this video 2 months ago, and I also finished it 2 months ago. That is crazy, but I just didn't have the time to edit a video, as I mentioned in another video, and I also think that it was the last video I uploaded, but I'm not sure on that. I am part of the unofficial Ahmed Al-Turi Discord server for his painting course. And on this server, there's a person called Emily, and Emily organizes these monthly art challenges. And they are very cute and very nice, and she always has amazing ideas for them. And for February, you were allowed to choose between 2 different challenges. And I decided to go for the one where you had to design a character based on the Queen of Hearts. So let's dive into the process and I will show you what I made and what I thought while doing it. Immediately after reading the challenges, I had to think of one of my favorite movies, the Tim Burton Alice in Wonderland. Helena Bonham Carter portrayed an amazing Red Queen, and I just love her design so much. The way the designers implemented so many heart shapes into her design without making it too obvious really inspired me here. So, keeping that in mind, I started thinking about ideas. For me, ideas come in many different ways. Sometimes I think about a story first, but sometimes an image pops up in my mind, and then I'll try to explore that on paper first because I just love the way you can sketch on paper and just dump out ideas without pulling out your iPad or your tablet or whatever you use to draw digitally. For this one, I asked myself what the term queen could be interpreted as in this challenge. Queen could mean that you are a leader of some sort, or queen also means that people listen to you and follow your order. It doesn't have to be that the queen herself views herself as a queen, and other people can just call her queen because she is in control of something. And so I had the idea of someone who controls weird beings that kind of look like hearts. So other people started calling her the Queen of Hearts. In my first sketches, I went for a design where those creatures lived in her stomach. I love the weird vibe those shadow heart stick figures have, and I will also show you these sketches while talking about them on screen. Maybe I will explore that another time because I really like those. They also give me Ghibli vibes, and that's a good thing. I knew that I wanted to play with those heart shapes in the dress as well, so I tried different color shapes. But after sketching the first 2 ideas, I had a quote-unquote normal human woman felt a little bit too boring to me, so I obviously, as I always do, had to go with a mask because I love masks. After I sketched out a version where her face was covered by a mask, I had the idea of a floating hat, and oh boy, did I fall in love with this idea. If you've watched Tim Burton's Alice in Wonderland, you might remember the way Anne Hathaway played her role. I love Anne Hathaway, and as I mentioned, love this movie, and I think she was perfect in that role, and I would have never imagined the Queen move like that. So that was very interesting, and it really stuck with me. Anne Hathaway moved in a very slow and swift way. And that way of moving is pretty similar to the way that I imagine this character would move. Very stiff and very slow. She would take her time, really embrace those movements she's making. So I decided to paint this character in a very stiff and still pose while being surrounded by the heart-shaped creatures, which are more energetic, smoky, and flowy. That is also the reason why I came up with this smoke idea, I think, because I really wanted to have something that moves around a little bit more and gives it a little bit more of energy. The idea was there, I just had to execute it. Let me tell you, it was so difficult for me to get the arms right. Even though I sketched out the arms in total before adding the color, my brain was so confused after I edited. The hole in the middle felt so off and confusing, but looking back at the painting almost 2 months after finishing it, I really like the placement. I love the idea of the hole with the floating head above it. It leaves a weird feeling, and I am here for that. As you may have noticed, especially if you follow me on Instagram, I love weird looking and feeling characters. They are everything to me. Maybe you noticed it already, but I added heart shapes in the collar, the chest, the skirt, and then also the front part of the skirt. And I had 2 versions that I could have gone for with the skirt, but I finally decided to go with the more layered version of it. I don't know where we are in this video, but you will see that during the sketching process and the painting process of the skirt. On the one hand, I love the flow and depth it adds, and on the other hand, the second version of the skirt gave me another opportunity to add more subtle heart shapes. Obviously, I also had to implement the shape in her hair and mouth. Quick disclaimer, I also changed her mouth and chin last minute just a week ago because I finally noticed what looked off to me while working on the character. But I just couldn't put my finger on what exactly felt off while I was working on it. And looking back at it 2 months after being done with it, I finally noticed it and I was like, should I change it or should I not change it? And I was debating because I initially was done with the painting, but I also knew that changing this would only take a minute. So I finally decided to just change it if it bothers me. And I'm very happy that I did because now I feel a lot more confident in this whole painting. So don't be confused when the final outcome looks slightly different than what you can see on screen. For the light source, I wanted to go with a warmer light source so that I would have cool shadows, and I tried to experiment a little bit more with that. Honestly, I think I could have pushed that a little bit further because you can't really see the switch in hues. But I still like the way that I rendered everything, especially considering that I am not a huge fan of rendering something to its finish. I am just too lazy. I love sketching. I love coming up with ideas, but spending 10 hours on something, it's not my thing. I don't do that very often, but when I do, I most of the time am happy that I did it. I also like the way that I painted her hair. I don't know if you noticed, but her hair is braided into multiple smaller strands, which I tried to show and I sketched in, and I think that worked out pretty well. Later in the process, you will see me adding some jewelry, which finishes it off. But sadly, my laziness took over and I didn't render the jewelry as well as I could have. One thing that was a lot of fun was rendering her collar, surprisingly. It took me a while to get it right, and usually I am way too lazy to spend a huge amount of time on something so redundant, but it ended up making a huge difference, and it was so satisfying to paint. But when it came to the ruffles on her wrist, that motivation didn't stick, and so I pretty much rushed these. But it doesn't matter because they are so small, you can't even see them well enough, and you probably wouldn't notice. Spontaneously, I decided to add random ruffles over her entire dress, and I am very happy that I had this random idea. They look so soft even though I just scribbled along the dress. Nothing fancy, nothing rendered, just some lazy scribbles. And then it was finally time to add my small little heart creatures. I was looking forward to do that for the whole painting. I went for skulls that were inspired by animal skulls. But if you look closely, I tried to give each of them a hint of a heart shape, especially with the tattoos or the paintings. Fun fact, while I was painting the skulls, I was reminded of Ichigo from Bleach the whole time. I didn't think of it when I had the idea, but maybe it inspired me, but I, didn't remember it actively. I also wanted to play around with different sizes to make it feel better when you look at the painting. I wanted to follow the big, medium, small rule, and it also helped me to give the whole painting a little bit more depth. My goal was to place the heads so that they are tilted towards her to emphasize on the fact that they listen to her command. If you've noticed, if a dog is very well trained, they often look to their owner when they are walking the dog. And that was my inspiration for that. The blue light that I added in the background happened by accident, but I ended up loving the way it looked, so I kept it. I also tried different color combinations. I tried a red one to keep it very monochromatic, but I really didn't like the way that turned out, and I stuck with the blue one. To be honest, besides the floating head and the heart-shaped dress and collar, I improvised on everything. But I had so much fun with it, and I learned a ton of things while painting this. And I'm so excited to finally share this with you guys, and I am finally able to upload this on Instagram. I'm so happy. So yeah. So this is the final outcome, and because I am a huge fan of a character standing in front of a plain white background, I just love the way that pops. It's amazing. It's so weird, but I just love it. I had to put her on a white background as well. And I really like that, so I will also show you that version. And I am also very excited because I didn't upload this character on Instagram until I was ready to upload this video. And finally, the time has come for me to upload it. And also, I was able to fix the face. So I feel more confident in showing it to people. But that's it for this video. And I will see you next time. I'm so excited to be back.